From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. We begin with the 2020 vote and a big announcement today from Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden. Biden has tabbed California Senator Kamala Harris as his VP choice. Harris becomes only the third woman and the first woman of color to be on a major party's presidential ticket. Biden calling Harris a fearless fighter for the little guy and one of the country's finest public servants. Well, tonight, Biden's choice getting reaction here in Montana, where both of our U.S. senators weighed in on the pick. Democratic Senator John Tester serves with Harris in the Senate, calls her a friend, and says she's an excellent pick for vice president. Tester says Harris is a proven fighter who will continue to fight for working families across the country. Republican Senator Steve Daines also serves in the Senate with Harris and had a much different reaction. He says Harris is as liberal as they come. He added that if she and Steve Bullock are elected, they will lead the charge in a job-killing agenda. President Trump also weighed in on his opponent's VP choice, saying he was surprised by the pick.
She was nasty to a level that was just a horrible thing, the way she was, the way she treated now Justice Kavanaugh, and I won't forget that soon. So she did very poorly in the primaries, and now she's chosen, so let's see how that all works out.
Dr. Jason Atkins is a political science professor at MSU Billings who follows local and national politics closely. I asked him for his take on Biden's choice of Kamala Harris as Biden's running mate.
Well, she brings a lot of things to the table. One is that she bridges the gap between, I think, the progressive and modern wings of the Democratic Party. Talk has been made of her embracing, these progressive issues, especially with racial equality and economic equality. But she also has worked, she was an attorney general of California for several years before she was elected to the Senate. She was a district attorney in San Francisco before she was the attorney general of California. So again, she kind of bridges both worlds.
The Democratic convention gets underway next week, but because of the pandemic, most won't be in person. So Atkins says that could mean the candidates won't get the typical bump that they usually do during the convention. Well, the hits just keep coming on the COVID front as the state saw 3 new deaths today and another 97 new cases. One of those deaths in Bighorn County, which is the 14th in that county since the pandemic began. Lewis and Clark County and Ravalli County saw the other 2 deaths, bringing the total of COVID-19 deaths to 78 now. Petroleum and Carter counties are now the only areas of the state to have not seen any coronavirus cases. Total number of Montana cases sits at more than 5,000. Late last night, the Mountain West Conference followed in the footsteps of the Big Sky Conference, announcing the cancellation of all fall sports, which includes Wyoming's football season. That vote was taken by the league board of directors, and today, 2 of the biggest conferences followed suit. Q2's Casey Conlon has more on that decision that could signal the end of the 2020 Division I college football season before it even begins.
It's the biggest domino to fall in college football so far. Today, the Big Ten and Pac-12, 2 of the so-called Power 5 conferences, announced that they are postponing all fall sports to 2021, where they will look at the feasibility of continuing them in the spring. Here's the new Big Ten commissioner earlier today.
As things began to evolve, you look at the number of cases that are spiking, the number of deaths, not only in our country, in our states where many of our schools are located, but worldwide, is that I promise that all the decisions that we will make during my tenure here at the Big Ten will always put the mental and physical health and safety and wellness of our student athletes at the center. And when you look at this decision, we just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
Those decisions mean about half of the 120 FBS schools have now chosen not to play football this fall. That includes the Mountain West Conference, which of course has the University of Wyoming within it. They made their decision last night, so there will be no major college football in our area this fall. We know that much for sure. Meantime, coming up tonight in sports, we'll take you back to the baseball diamond for history made for the Billings Blue Jays. That is coming up. Let's go back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Casey. In about 2 weeks, kids in Lockwood will hit the books for another year of school during the COVID-19 pandemic. School administrators are planning to educate with a hybrid model. Different sections of students come to class on different days, supplemented with online learning. Lockwood's plan to reopen includes 3 different scenarios that staff is prepared to move between at a moment's notice if an outbreak does occur. The district is hiring 3 full-time substitute teachers to help in the event of a COVID-19 case in the schools. School officials are looking for more help in the upcoming year.
So they'll be here every single day, and we can utilize them as needed. You know, we know that we're going to have teachers get sick, absent of the COVID. We know we're going to have maternity leaves and those type of things. And so the idea is to try and bring those people into the fold since we have those extra resources this year.
The full-time subs are being paid for with the help of about $300,000 in federal money from the CARES Act passed by Congress back in March. The new Lockwood High School will hold a grand opening ceremony for the community on its football field coming up on August 20th. And officials in Lockwood dedicated a new stretch of sidewalk that was named in honor of a 16-year-old boy today who was killed by a passing car on that road back in 2013. 5,100 feet of sidewalk stretching along the length of Beecraft Lane was dedicated to Dustin Freeze, who was killed while walking with a friend on the shoulder of the road. After his death, the community voted in a pedestrian safety committee and a mill levy worth about $200,000 a year to help plan and pay for future sidewalk improvements.
The irony, one day when I was knocking on doors on Beecraft, cars were going flying by, and I thought, well, what if I get run over while knocking on doors to try to make this happen? And so, as you can tell now, you just feel this separation from the road, how much safer it feels.
The Safety District has now helped to add about 3.5 miles of sidewalk to the Lockwood area since 2013. All right, turning to Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire. And Bob, if you look skyward early tomorrow morning, you might see a shower of a different kind.
Different kind, yeah. This is one of the biggest meteor showers of the year, and it's the Perseid meteor shower. And guess what? It reaches its peak tomorrow morning just before sunrise. So can you see any tonight? Well, you know, you really can. If you get out there, you got to get away from the street lights and all that stuff. Get out there. But if you start looking up, say around midnight or so, look towards the northeast, you can probably start to see some of the meteors. And the peak will probably be right about dawn or so. And then you probably won't be able to see them after that. Obviously, it'll be too bright. But this is, you know, a big event, 100 meteors per hour. And now tomorrow morning, with those clearing skies, we're looking at 58 degrees and just some very mild temperatures. So actually, be a pretty good morning to look at some of the meteor showers. And if you don't see it tomorrow morning, well, you still have another few more days before the thing totally disappears altogether. We'll have your weekend forecast coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, sir. Well, University of Montana students moving back to Missoula might have trouble finding a place to live. MTN's Katie Miller spoke with 2 property management companies to find out what's behind the lack of inventory.
As college students return to Missoula, rental applications are piling up, and property management groups say they're seeing some of the lowest vacancy rates they've seen in the past decade.
We hear a lot of them complaining about how difficult it is to get into something right now. You know, it's expensive to apply. So if they're applying at multiple places trying to get into something and they're unable to secure anything, it gets expensive.
Heather Schwank with Missoula Property Management says of the 1,600 units it manages, only 1 is ready to rent.
It's just crazy. I don't know.
Schwank says she's never seen anything like this. She says usually there are about 50 or 60 units available, but the last time she checked, the vacancy rate was less than 1%. Paul Burrow with Professional Property Management says prior to this summer, Missoula's overall vacancy rate was around 3%.
I feel really sorry for anybody that has, you know, some kind of credit issue or poor rental history or something like that. It's just going to be tough for them.
And it's not just that there are no apartments.
We were begging people to not apply.
Schwank says she currently has 141 applicants waiting for something to open. Burrow says earlier this summer, he had 124 applicants for 28 properties and currently has 0 units available.
This is with the university down, 5,000 kids or so from what it used to be. If that ever gets turned around, imagine that problem.
Both companies attribute the issue to people moving in from out of state, lack of options, and people staying in their leases for longer due to the pandemic. Burrow suggests having your rental references ready before you go to apply. In Missoula, Katie Miller, MTN News.
And Burrow says he wants to see more units being built so the burden doesn't all fall on renters. Still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, Montana's Green Party members fighting back just days after being removed from the 2020 November ballot. And in sports, it's a great time to be a Blue Jay. We're going to hear from the Class A Legion champions coming up in just a bit.